at the Keenan Center, and it's wonderful. And I hope you'll all make it. You know, fall is a terrific time of year for art exhibits. Just put your hand down anywhere, and there's wonderful stuff to see. So keep your eyes open, and we'll try and publish as many things as we can that have. It was probably when did the last
The first 12.
in 2012.
No, 14, sorry.
2014. Those of you who know me know that I'm the administrator of the Niagara Frontier Watercolor Society Facebook page. So I'm always out there on social media looking for information about watercolor painters. And Iain was somebody that I'd heard about from Thomas Schaller, and in 2014 he posted a painting that he had done of the Glasgow College of Art right after it burned the first time. And at the time I didn't know that he was born in Glasgow. His father and mother are from Glasgow. That he moved here when he was 7. He moved here because his father got a teaching position in the United States. He was an award-winning architect, his father was. His father ended up teaching ultimately at Auburn University, and for some reason, Iain ended up following him as a professor at Auburn University in the architecture department. He's gone through several careers, all related to architecture and painting. Right now, he's, I'd have to say, primarily a painter and a workshop teacher, and just the most incredibly inspirational teacher, just amazing. Those of you who know that I'm a retired architect can say, well, you're a retired architect. But I think all the 22 people who are in the workshop would have to agree that he's just introduced us to so many things that we sort of knew, but didn't know what we could do with them, and didn't know the order to use them. And those of us who don't like to draw are being forced to draw. It's just great. So with that, I have to say it's a great welcome. Welcome.
Thank you very much. How are my levels here? Testing. Thanks very much, Carol. I think I'm blushing. It's an honor to be here tonight, and thank you for coming out. As is typical for me, I had a tulip.
No, not you. Mary, is it possible to turn down the volume a little bit?
I have a voice that carries it. Okay,
That's
so
great. Thank you, Roy.
I had an image prepared, and at the last, I think I just went out.
Those sounds good.
Hello?
There.
Okay, the green light's on, then if not, I'll speak louder. I had another image prepared, but I decided, as I want to do, yeah, okay, so we'll just talk like this. How's that?
Ask,
All right.
ask the back row.
How are you guys in the back? All right.
Okay.
I decided to change courses, so I thought it'd be nice if I didn't pull the proverbial pan of brownies from under the table and show you a finished drawing and then just paint that. But I'd show you a bit of my process. Let's not worry about that now. I spent most of my career as an architectural illustrator, which means I've been painting. If you go by nowadays, it's all computer. I painted buildings, so either for marketing or for trophies for the owner, or so that people would be able to know what the building would look like. And before the days of computer, you had to generate those by hand. And nobody teaches you how to do that. You have to read books and fail and keep trying and fail and keep trying and fail. But in 2009, I think you'll remember we had a bit of a bump in the economy. That day, we'll call it January 1, 2009, every architectural illustrator on the planet was fired. We all own our own businesses. You know, I didn't fire myself, I just had no work. I did 45 illustrations in 2008, did 4 in 2009.
Whoa.
So I had to do some shifting of gears. And I decided to become a painter, or the painter I'd always wanted to be. The problem was I was trained to be so tight. And letting go, especially as an architect, is very, very hard to let go of all of those wonderful details. And so in that discovery process and trying to find out actually what I wanted to say rather than do a very pretty painting of a building of my choice, I went back to the one place that I'd always found inspiration, which is my sketchbook. So I'll just show you a few pages. This is where I go to observe. This is where I go to learn. This is where I go to loosen up. Where I go to study. When I'm feeling blue, all of that. It's where I test ideas. And these are, most of it's plein air. There's some, this is from a photo, but I've been to Venice. That's actually plein air. I just, you know, what draws the eye that particular day. So these things become incredibly precious, but they're great teachers. And so that's what taught me how to begin to let go of the need for all of this detail and start to look for how am I expressing myself rather than am I being incredibly accurate? Because there's something about when you're in the sketchbook and this paper, it's relaxing. Yes?
Do you paint the colors at the same time, or do you draw and then add the paint
I
later?
draw and paint.
At all the same sitting, or in the same outdoors?
No, some of these will be, these are little studies from photographs of Venice. So I just got on a Venice kick for a little while. We own a farm. We don't grow anything, but a guy keeps cows. So this is actually plein air. All of this stuff, I don't know. That's all plein air in New York. 5 minutes on site. Just, yeah, it's not bragging. It's so you have a certain amount of time, and in this one I had my wife and her best friend sitting there going. So I had to go quickly. But sometimes quickly is the best way. But learning not to worry about the outcome, that's the sketchbook. And you'll notice that I work on both sides of the paper. That ensures that I'm not going to take it out, right? Because as soon as if I remove one of these pages, then it can be framed. Then it means something. Or I can think about naming it. And then it becomes precious. And then I start to ruin it. So if it's just in the sketchbook, and I know that it's going to stay there, and I get to choose if you see it or not, then I'm much more apt to explore freely. So if there's one thing I can leave you with, besides hopefully a decent demo, is the incredible joy I take in just being on site and painting I just got back from southern France. It's a little warmer than here. But painting on site. So, I'm going to do a little church from my childhood. I am from Scotland. I don't sound like it. I live in Alabama. I don't sound like that either. But, excuse me?
Your sketchbook material, is that watercolor paper or is that ink and?
It's supposed to be ink or pencil. It's the Stillman and Byrne Alpha series. The owner of this company called me personally and said, I think you've got it wrong. By the way, I like your sketches, but I think you've got it wrong. You must be using the Beta series. That's for watercolor. I said, no. And I happened to be in New York a few months later, and he took me out to eat, and he looked at it. He didn't know his paper could do that. So we've had a good relationship ever since. I did get food poisoning though. One of these hole-in-the-wall New York places with no name, you know. But, so let me just talk about the importance of drawing to me. Here's a little photograph. This is, can you see that?
Yeah.
Okay. This is a small church on the Isle of Bute, which is down the Clyde from Glasgow. And as a boy, my uncle had a boat that he would dock at Port Bannatyne, which is just around the corner from here. So I spent a lot of time on bicycles and stuff at this church. I had my first kiss actually around the corner.
Wow.
So it's just a special place. Whenever I'm in Scotland, I beeline it for Bute. And you have to take a train, 20 minutes, and then a ferry for 45 or 40, which is just enough time to get on, stow your luggage, order a pint, and go outside.
Get your first kiss?
Well, first kisses are one thing, but get some salt spray, we'll see. So all of my drawings begin like this, a very loose light. You'll see the darker lines starting to happen, but it's not until I've done most of the construction work that I then zero in on that. Because then I can judge the proportions. And I've drawn this many times. I've painted it a few, but it's always different in some way. The water here is very, very cold. And one of the most memorable things one of my favorite memories of this is my father, when we were 12, betting me and a friend of mine that we would not swim across the bay. We did, because there's 5 pounds on the line, and that's a lot of candy. And he didn't like parting with that. And but it was pretty nice. And we used my uncle's boat. He built it out of the life raft from one of the big ocean liners that they built. Glasgow is known for it's a shipbuilding city. It was bombed in World War II, actually. One of the few Scottish cities to be bombed. So I'm just putting in a few details. So I get this comment a lot. Your work is so detailed. And I just want to laugh. Because if you saw what I did as an architectural illustrator, if there were 1,972 windows in the particular view. I painted 1,962 windows exactly. I'm not counting any window. I just want it to look like a house here. I want this bit to look a bit like a church. So we'll see if I can do that. And I think we've got that. I will do a little bit of this wall. Got some trees here. Get some houses over here. Some bushes. And then this is called the Shore Road. But all Scottish, well, most Scottish beaches in this part of the country are all pebbles. And they really are a bit sore. I thought they were sore until I went to Nice. Has anybody walked on the beach at Nice? Holy cow. It's like somebody said, let's import the most uncomfortable stone we can find and then send unsuspecting people out there in their bare feet. It took me 5 minutes to get out of the water. And I hadn't been drinking. But, all right. So there we have a drawing. In my paintings, the goal is not to paint objects. I don't do that. And I don't leave holes in my paintings. The object that I'm trying to, or the thing that I'm trying to capture is the light. So the only thing that I paint around is light. The watercolor is such a wonderful medium because the light's there from the beginning. And if it leaves, it's our fault. The glow is here. We just need to create it by putting something strong next to it and building up layers. I don't know how many of these things you do, or if you would. It seems that you must enjoy watching people paint and watching paint dry. My son, I was doing a demo for the Utah Watercolor Society, and that one maybe it was 300 and something, almost 400 people. And some sly person put it on Facebook Live. And my kid, he was 17 or something, 16 at the time, he goes, what are those people doing if they don't have anything better to do except for to come out and watch you paint? And I said, you swine? How do you enjoy eating? Do you enjoy opening the fridge and there being something there for you? Shut up. Now that he's in college and he's in industrial design, he has a slightly more appreciation for it. He still thinks the guitar is cool. So I'm going to begin the wash. It's a nice gray Scottish day, and most Scottish buildings are built of nice gray Scottish stone. And then you have, the grass is very green, but I hate green. Let's see what happens.
You have a favorite paper?
This is Saunders Waterford, and I do enjoy it very much. I used to paint only on arches, but then, they switched they stopped making it in the location they'd been making it in and moved to another location, and something happened to the sizing. There's been a problem there for a while. They say it's taken care of, but it still keeps popping up. Nobody knows if that's, it's not like tainted beef, they don't go and collect all the paper. But they keep trying to assure us that it's fine. If you've done growing that takes you some time, and then paint and find that it oddly shaped resists, yeah, I'm gonna let them figure it out for sure before I go back. I love it because it's a tank, it can take anything. This is a very soft paper. You have to be gentle with it.
Is that one cotton?
Um,
Is it 100% cotton?
is it?
It's wool.
I don't know. That could be a lie. Are you a plant from Arches? I don't know. I used to think, I used to paint on only 100% cotton rag sketchbooks, and used to say that all the time, and then realized that Stone and Burn isn't. Oops. So I'm just making a couple of grays here. And I'll blame the light if I don't get this right. Don't worry, we're set for takeoff here momentarily.
How do you make your grays, Ian?
I like to make grays using my primaries or a version of them. So, and I usually work with a warm and a cool gray. So, my warm will be based with a cobalt, my cool will be based with an ultramarine, French ultramarine, and then raw sienna and little alizarin crimson. I know I'm going to have to delve into green when I get into some of this, but one of the things about green is it fouls everything. Once it's in your brush, it's going to foul the water. If it fouls the water, then it's going to foul your pan. You just have to live with that. Turn some grays green. I mean, watercolor painting in general, it's all value driven to me, anyway. But enough with the pleasantries. Let's see what we can do. So, and I'm really just wanting to put some tone on. And if you haven't demonstrated live in front of people, I highly suggest you do it. And I'm just making sure that I like to warm things up as well. So if I use a blue, I'm always thinking about the complement. But this is the underpainting. So, and there's some interesting stuff going on in the sky, but again, this is a demo. We're on a time limit of sorts. But, and if I stop talking, that means I'm thinking about something or I've made a mistake and I'm trying to figure out how to not show you that. So I'll paint through the hill in the background. And if you want good lessons in how to paint moody scenes, go to Scotland. We'll do it for you. It rains quite a bit. The last time I was there, it didn't. The sun didn't come out. Everywhere I went, it started raining. And I'd leave, and the sun would come out. So my entire family, like, don't come out. And I was upset, but the year before, it was the exact opposite. It was sunny the whole time. I had 2 days of a little bit of sprinkle. And if Scotland gives you that, don't look that one in the mouth. Take it. Scotland's beautiful on a rainy day. If you get a good one. And then all the hard men, which they call them, from Glasgow, they come up and utterly fry themselves on the beaches of this island. It's unbelievable. This guy I was watching, and you could hear him sizzle. And I asked him, I said, man, you're frying. You're bright, bright, bright red. Was I?
Is that?
It's grand now. It's not going to be grand tomorrow, maybe. And his wife, who had not been paying attention to what was going on, suddenly became very interested in the conversation. And I forget his name. She started telling him to put his shirt on. And this is a Sunday, so I'm very sure that he had had quite a bit to drink. And he had to work in the morning, but he knew he was going into work with a sunburn from Rossi. So I'm thinking the light's just coming in, and really, it's cloudy. Maybe there's some light coming in. It's just hitting the front of that church, just as strong as can be. And I can do a Scottish accent well, but Glaswegians start a sentence with one of the most offensive words in the English language, and they finish it with the most offensive. So I tend not to do that because I'll lapse into, this would go from a, yeah, that was a good demo, to, oh, gotta go. And I'm really not joking. And if they call you one of these words, that means they like you. So you see, and I'm doing this partially because I'm on a deadline, a timeline, but you see I'm leaving just some of these little kiss lines, I call them, to separate the building from the sky and the landscape. Let's get some more cobalt blue and put a little bit of burnt sienna into that, and that's just to take a little bit of the punch out of the cobalt blue. Yes. All right. So again with the So I'm starting to get into some trees, which means me and Green are about to have a talk. But I want this to be kind of a moody painting.
Is that 140-pound paper?
Yes, so that's why it's buckling. But I like it to buckle. But just seeing, so see this, the white of the paper, when I paint around that becomes pretty powerful.
Yeah.
But we haven't done anything very strong with the painting yet. So if it's got this kind of power at wash 1, wash 3, it's really, you can really push it. I find the trick to that is really understanding what your values are going to do, taking the time to explore how your palette will work when there's no painting involved. But one of the things that's sort of been on my radar lately is the idea that every time you put paintbrush to paper, you have to create a painting. It's ludicrous. Because you're not going to practice. If you spend even 15 minutes drawing something, you don't want to ruin it. Therefore, you're not going to take any chances. So if you just play, you may find that you surprise yourself, and you're also going to begin to discover different ways that your colors will mingle. So what I have in the workshop that we're doing in the mornings is what I call the morning warm-up. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to start mixing a green. Yes. But the point of that is you mix, say, 4 colors, different strengths, and you just put them on the paper and see how they react. Has anybody ever talked to you about the difference between receiving and invading colors?
Just Iain Stewart.
If you don't know, you need to go look. What happens when you put the same strength of cobalt blue and burnt sienna together? How will they react? Don't know the answer to that, you need to go home and do it. And I'll give you a hint. One of them's going to move into the other one in a very quick manner. If it doesn't, you probably got your mixture wrong. It's certainly not me. So here we have a distant hillside. And this is wet or damp, wet on damp, which should give us a nice little moody. Green runs uphill. That's another thing that this will teach you. And now it's into my church. And if anyone from my workshop will tell you, I call it swine green. So another thing that happens, as soon as I start using green, I know I need to start getting some burnt sienna involved. Now let's get some pretty green. We'll get lower. I'm not a big fan of tube greens, but Daniel Smith's green gold is pretty good, hot stuff. See how that edge is holding, except for there? Who cares? And then it's absolutely gone there. That's nice.
Yeah.
Clouds make that happen to land. I'll teach you other lies you can tell people. I don't know. Don't trust anything I say. And I'm looking at the clock. Don't worry. And I'm just going to bring that down, and I'm going to get it a little stronger as I hit the water. Boom. We've got something nice happening. Now, we've got these trees. So, trees are going to have the same sort of reaction to sunlight as the church would. And I need to watch. The only thing, this is wonderful, this method of stretching paper. The first time I saw it, I think it was Bukic, just taped a piece of watercolor paper down on a video. You can do that? Because I'd been soaking and stretching paper for 14 years. That alone was worth the price of the DVD. But let's not talk about him just now during my work, or my demo. He's a very nice man. He's pretty good at painting. I've been working all day, and I've been on the road for 2 weeks. So I'm not making excuses, but yes, I am. All right, so just continue. The thing about my first wash is it sets the tone for the entire painting. So once I get through this, everything starts to move a little quicker. Sometimes. Hopefully. We'll see.
So I noticed you're using a rather small brush for painting so far.
Yeah, because I'm having to cut some angles and things like that. Normally I would be using a mop, but see, I'm in here doing some sort of fine roof work and things like that. So this is a Skoda Perla number 14. It's got a really beautiful point. But then the belly has got, it's really got a lot of holding down. And like I said, my goal here is to tie the entire painting together and then see what I have. But it's a good point. Normally I wouldn't do this, but it's not a normal day either. If you haven't tried speaking while you paint, again, let me reiterate, it's incredibly fun. It's somewhat of a challenge. I learned by painting for my dogs, they're all really talented now and out earning their kibble. My. We're about to get past the stage where things are moving slowly. So, I really did. I sat them down and said, okay, Casey, first of all, we're going to take some cobalt blue. You think I'm kidding? My wife came home while I was doing that. And I've worked at the house, our entire relationship. I've always had a home studio. And she's not used to hearing me talk. She's used to hearing music or something. So if someone's talking, it means someone's in the house. But there's only my car. No bicycles, nothing. So, honey? Yes, darling. Who's here? No one, darling. Pause. Who are you talking to? Oh, I'm just teaching the dogs to paint. Pause. it kind of freaked her out. But then she wasn't prepared, you know. Here's how you know you have a good relationship. In the middle of the worst recession anybody has experienced in our lifetime, your husband comes to you and says, I want to be an artist. I support you in that decision. Hold on to those words. And she is, has always been one of my most ardent defenders. Do not get between me or, I'll leave it at that. When I was an illustrator, some architects are really well known for needing things very fast, but really well known for not needing to pay you very quickly. And a series of renderings can easily begin to run into the thousands and thousands of dollars. And she was not used to people owing people that kind of money. And this very, very silly architect from Atlanta decided that they didn't need to pay me. 5 minutes on the phone with her, I was paid. She doesn't fool around. So now we're approaching the base, and everything's kind of the same-ish. We've got this nice thing. Again, I really don't have any concern with that. That little green's just going to do that, and that is going to happen when you paint in public. You can't control it all. And it's a nice thing. It's a hard realization, and if you paint these demos, you're going to hit a point where you take one and it goes way down. And it can be a little soul crushing. It's always embarrassing. Why are you talking about doing it then? Because I just don't. I have no filter at this point. It's not because I'm planning on ruining this painting, and nor am I making excuses if I do, nor will I even point out if I think I'm going to. But look at how strong that white is now. So, let's see what I want to do with this. I really love the graphic quality of white paper. So if we have sun that's that strong that's hitting the face of this building, it stands to reason that we could have sun that's so strong that it makes part of this water white. Right? I don't get it. Don't worry. I do, kind of. I'm going to cheat for a second. Oh yes, we're in good, fantastic shape. Good. This is my water flap. It has turquoise, cobalt turquoise. It has lavender. It has a little cobalt. And in mixing it, I got a little crack on that, but into all lives a little rain must fall. If a little dot like that's going to twist you up on a demo paint, you don't need to be doing it. But I've just, now I've just placed that, and there's water. As we come around the bend, there's all these lichens and things on Scottish beaches. So maybe I can use some yellows to begin to suggest those, and maybe, dare say, some greens. Okay, so I'm gonna take a little bit of phthalo turquoise. This stuff, it works really well, but man, it can ruin your day too. So I'm just gonna do a little graded wash. Now I'm gonna start taking a little bit of, actually let's take soda out from that. Start to get it thicker. And I'm trusting on this bead to mix the color on the paper for me. A little more phthalo. And there's actually, the Gulf Stream comes up. These are called the Kyles of Butte. But there's actual palm trees here. The water's 42 degrees, but there are palm trees outside. Yeah. So this was where, before you could get cheap flights to Spain and things like that, this is where Scotland, or the west of Scotland, played. Let's get some of that soda light going. It's pretty strong. That's cool. And I'm going to start making the beach. So if I didn't do these little warm-ups and just play with what my colors do when I mix them together, I would be absolutely freaking out right now. But fortunately, I've done a bit of that. I know how that's going to hold its edge. I also know that it's going to, when I put that in, that was right? But the right tone at the right time should make you a little uncomfortable. Uh-oh, we are 3 minutes past time for me to let you go eat things. And I don't know about Buffalo, but where I am from, that means hurry it up, bub. So here's some of these lichens. We're just going to let that run. Let's get some more of that soda light. So I've made, just by saying soda light a couple of times,
Yeah, what is
everybody in the workshop's gone out and bought soda light.
What is
No,
that?
I didn't know
It's just that it's one of Daniel Smith's primatics, but if
Oh.
mixed, so soda light, that's soda light and raw sienna, it makes a beautiful dirty green, which is exactly what I'm looking for right now. And this gets us to a natural stopping point,
Blue is beautiful.
which if I don't mind saying, given the fact that I've been on teaching and on the road for 2 weeks, just a little bit of time at home, I was able to do that and perhaps entertain you for a few minutes and only be 5 minutes over
So we'll take a break.
my allotted time. So let's take a 10-minute break. Thank you.
I got a question.
Sure.
How's the dog doing with his lesson?
It's dead.
It's dead?
It's my favorite. There'll never be another one like it. She learned how to paint very, very badly, but she lived a good life.
Can you make it so we can see the top of it?
It looks wonderful.
There, thanks.
All right, a couple things we've got to do. And I can't believe I'm going to do this, but I think, unless I can't, no, just getting rid of all the pencil lines on that. So that just cleaned that up pretty nicely. I'll get rid of the pencil lines on this. This is, I bought this, it's not Tom's, man. Tom, he actually uses a very special Japanese lot. Enough about Tom. And that has nothing to do with, he's a very good friend of mine. A fantastic painter. But tonight's about me. So. All right, so what did I say? I paint around light, right? And typically my paintings are 1, 2, 3 steps. So I want to be careful the way I treat this. We've got some ideas, and it's fairly common for me anyway. I like to take my paintings and give myself every opportunity to ruin them. It's not a joke. What I think watercolor to me becomes very lively and beautiful when you're right on the edge of failure.
It's true, though.
How many beers did you have with dinner?
1. I'm serious. Because you've got to take risks. If you get to this stage in a painting, I'll tell you exactly how you ruin one. Like, kill it dead. Get to this stage and start thinking about what show you're going to send it to, what you're going to name it, and what kind of way you're going to frame it. Dead. You won't take any more risks. And when you push watercolor and use it the way it's supposed to be used, and I'm not talking about anybody else and then the way they paint. I'm talking about the way I paint. So I'm not a big fan of rules, and I don't like generalized statements like that. So that's why I'm making that distinction. When I talk about painting, I'm talking about me and the way I paint. I know I've got lots of friends that do 22 by 30 sheets with something this would be considered a huge brush. And they move across it like a printer. It's amazing. I can't do that because I would end up frothing at the mouth and arrested for something. I don't know. I can't really see my colors. There we go. Is that good online for you guys? Okay. So, that's a nice color. That's not so nice. That's better. Let's get a little bit of... I feel like Basil Fawlty or something. I've been up since 5 o'clock. So let's make this church stand out and say, hey, I'm the star. You guys listen to what I have to say. So, and this has been a challenge for the workshop, and it's a challenge for most of my workshop attendees, is the understanding that if I'm painting through, or if I'm painting something that I know that's going to be darker than what's behind it, I paint right through it. Again, I only paint around light. Right? It's as See how that just moves in front? I didn't have to, there was no church-shaped hole in my painting. That's just not the way I like to do it. It's a personal choice. And the little rascals are playing in the background.
They're actually doing Scottish folk dancing.
Oh,
Probably not Scottish, just folk dancing.
well, swing your partner around and around.
Yeah.
See how that has now got some strength? Now, it's gonna take a little more than that to really make it sing, so I'm just gonna take some neutral tint while that's good and dark and drop it in. That should make me have the heebie-jeebies, which it does, which means I'm on the right track. While we're at it, I'm gonna go ahead and put a couple of windows in.
Sue.
See how that stands out? My favorite color is this. It transforms all of your colors in the most beautiful way. Your dark should breathe. Should be very strong in areas and then move away from that. He sure is opinionated. Yeah. You haven't met my dad, though. And he called. He tried to call me right before, as I start the demo, to find out if that's good or bad luck. Yeah, it sounds like there's a Kaylee going on.
Yep.
My first Scottish workshop, I started the first demo, and up sprung a Kaylee from across the river. I went, okay, maybe we're onto something. Because I had spent the previous 3 weeks absolutely freaking out, thinking it's going to rain the whole time. The day after the workshop, it poured. Like you couldn't run 20 feet without being soaked, like to your underwear soaked. All right, so there's that church. Boom. And see how I've graded that, right?
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
Now, I want to show the entry to the church. I'm just using, and I'm going to actually flood that a bit. And as we say in Alabama, take some of the stank out of it. And those of you that are in my workshop have heard me doing. Oh man, I didn't know he told the same jokes all the time. This is a good sign. I was rescued in Turkey during a demo by the Eagles. I was going down for the third time. And I'm not a big Eagles fan. I was that day. Don Henley came on, and suddenly there was just enough of home for me to get through this crazy thing. So there, let's put a little bit of just some shaping on that. Let's get these houses sorted. Yeah, pretty much. But the process can be extremely complicated. So this is fairly straightforward, right? On my, I don't know what I'm not gonna call them my good ones, because they're all my babies, but the ones that seem to get attention, yeah. But the thing maybe is typically, I'm looking at about 15 different places at the same time. This phase, what I'm just doing is shaping and giving you an understanding of the direction of light and enhancing that, hopefully. One thing about greens, be very mindful of layering greens. If you use them strongly, with some punch, and you are not careful, they'll go to mud on you really, really fast. But if you look at the actual shadows that are in trees or on grass, it's a gray. It's not a green. It's just a lack of light. So I'm going to shape this tree. That's not a traditional green. That's that soda light again. Who's going to order some soda? Right?
Like $30 a tube.
Yeah.
Is that how much it is? Really?
Some of those natural ones are crazy expensive.
I'm not trying to sell anybody anything. I'm trying to get home to my bed. I was offering to the workshop attendees $150 to do the demo and found no takers. Again, I would say the swines. Ungrateful swines that they are. I love you, Colin. So there's maybe some, I don't know, that actually, some kind of plant dripping over a hedge or a wall in Scotland. That doesn't happen very often. My uncle gets freaked out if he can't reach the top of the hedge. It's 12 feet high and he gets this weird ladder out. But, this guy is also in Scotland taking a cold shower every day of his life. I caught him when I was smoked cigarettes. I caught him out in the backyard and he was trying to make fire. And being who I am, see, this gets me in trouble. I just got my lighter and lit it. That's as near to death as I think I've ever gotten. Yeah. But my good and deserving aunt would have flayed him had he killed me. To see how that little, I've just suggested that there's a doorway that's very, very light. I've shaped all this, and I don't see any reason at present to do anything else. That's all wrapped up in a nice little bow right now. My job is not to mess it up. I need to do something with this, though. So let's get some of this green.
What is
This is the green gold. Let's get some directional lines going. So this is just, what does someone do as soon as they buy a piece of property anywhere? Just wall it off, say, this is mine. Those are my sheep. Now, Scotland has no rule of trespass, so you can walk across these fields. But I don't suggest you do it unless you're pretty nippy on your feet, because there's a lot of sheep roaming those things. And the general rule there, I bet you didn't know you were going to be treated to some long-winded treatise on how it is, what it is to live in Scotland, but I don't know, gotta fill some time. If there are a lot of sheep in a field, by all means, walk into it. There's one not going that field.
Why is that?
For that is a ram. When we were kids, we would line up with 2 or 3 kids on each side of the pasture field, and then someone would yell, "Go!" And we would all run, and you had to run straight across. And if we were all sort of fast enough and nobody did the dirty to someone else, which was slow down or zag when you were zigging, it would confuse the ram and he wouldn't know what to do. But if they did the dirty to you, which they always did, they would zag when you zigged. The ram would get an eyeball square on you, and you would be in the air. Now, I never got hit by one, but my brother did, and I did the dirty on him. Big brothers, man. And so I should give him all my money and just apologize. All of my money from art. It'd just be a quick check. It'd be fine. So there we have a bit of, just enough. I don't want you looking over here. I'm doing that. That's a directional line. That's the point where I want you to look. This is one of my favorite greens, actually. It's a pretty decent one. My friend Bill Hook turned me on to it. It's called Undersea Green.
Yeah.
It is beautiful.
Yeah.
It really works well. And I don't know if you're zoomed in. Yeah, so see how I just, by turning the corner there, doing this, coming down the way I did, I just turned that into a wall. Right? Value driven. Let's make a nice pretty lawn. Well, if that's not pretty, I don't know what is. So, all of this is starting to line up. My little don't mess it up bells are starting to ring. And you need to pay attention to those fellas, because they're usually right. So I'm going to say that that's getting a bit of sunlight. Maybe this is turned away a little bit. something with a little bit of power without too much. Yeah, don't worry, guys. I'll get you home on time. What I might have to do is a very quick step up and get the dryer going, and then jump down and do a couple of things. It will be Bob's your uncle. So I'm just creating the shoreline, some rocks and some whatnot. And I'm just trusting that the confident brushstroke will say that, you know, I'm not overly concerned with being too, is it right, is it right, is it right? Life's too short. Ruin some paintings. It's really, really refreshing. I probably need to shut up about that. My gosh, that was almost terrible. Are those actually there on the church? No. But it needed it. Okay. It's always a good idea to step back from your piece. There's that. Now we're going to get into my blues again. There's no substitute for a confidently made brushstroke. So in addition to playing and discovering what your paints will do when you mix them together with other colors, you need to practice brushstrokes. If you want to make a straight brushstroke, you need to be able to do it. If you want to make brushstrokes that change, so watch this. I'm going to get a little bit of that. Oh, my goodness. You should make something confident. There's no replacement for that. Soda light. I mean, it's just so. Today, tomorrow only, I get 75% of the profit. Sold by Dennis Smith. I know John Cogley, and I know that you're lying. We'll split the profits. So then we have some water.
Can you tell us any more about baby water?
No. I'll tell you this. If you have a chance, now I'm using a palette knife. If any chance I get, unless I'm really feeling kind of nutty, I'm going to simplify whatever water I see. Unless that's just really a key ingredient of the painting, which that's not the case here. I just need to convey the idea of water. But as the troughs of water come farther away, they're going to be smaller. As they come towards you, you'll see more of them. So as you do that, if your brush, if you can make it dance that way, but then also know how to lean on it so that the belly widens, then you're going to give an impression of water. It's very hard to work with. But that doesn't Just, okay, good. Yeah, always look for ways to simplify it. These are rocks. These are rocks. These are rocks. Yeah. Okay. Yes. Oh, yes. Let me show you something I haven't shown anybody in a while. Okay, don't be afraid of the dark, right? Dark set off your light. You don't get glow without putting something, you know. Now that's pretty heavy, and I'm not worried about it. It's also pretty flat, which does concern me. Not a big fan of flat, dark washes. But, so what do we say we turn this into some rocks? That doesn't look like rocks. I don't care. It's late. I've been working all day. It looks enough like rocks. Go have another Rice Krispie treat. So I've just pulled that. Palette knife, another thing you need to play with. They're really great. But look at how, if you get a good scrape on that, that was pretty wet paper. Get a good scrape on that, that's going to hold just enough. The more of those you have up your sleeve, the happier a watercolor painter you are going to be. Usually I figure out ways to rhyme that, but I'm tired. And it's just been a long, long day. How many times is he going to say that? How was his workshop? Or how was his demo? Just made a lot of excuses. So, my thing is, I got these darks here. They're working for me. So give me just a second to dry this. By second, I probably mean 30. Feel free to grab Rice Krispies. Looks like rocks to me. It's certainly Thursday night rocks. All right. You gotta give yourself one more chance to kill it. If you don't, you're just not playing it safe. One thing, got a lot of greens and stuff going on. Let's have some little red chimney pots. Oh, so beautiful. I'm so good. Okay. I gotta do it. Oh, man. Crazy person. So this is, hello, I can quit right now if you would like. It's Thursday night. So I'm using light red, and I had a discussion with someone earlier during the break about clouds and grays. And grays come in all sorts, shapes, and sizes, but in Scotland they come in scary and not so scary. Where's my trusty ugly brush? There we go. Don't laugh at ugly brush. It's had a long day.
Having a bad hair day.
Hey, don't listen to it. You do it. You go get it done, baby. Bring it home, ugly brush. Bring it home. Oh, ugly brush. You win again. Yay. So now,
Yeah.
one more chance to ruin. Gotta do it. If you don't do that, you're not painting. If you're not painting, you're not taking chances. This is water. Vodka.
Oh my God.
The only way you get these soft mountains by having extremely, see, don't do it, is exactly what I want to hear. That's what I like to hear.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, ugly brush. They were so concerned with you. They're not worried about your cousin,
Ugly painter.
adventurous painter.
Wow.
You don't, if you want a kiss,
Do we want to kiss?
you gotta be able to stand up and ask for it.
It's wonderful.
So all you guys, they're going, oh. Well, I'm not even gonna show it. This is mine.
Wow.
We're
Yeah,
done.
very good.
Thank you for the wonderful evening. Thank you for your all of you. Thanks very much.
Thank you.